welcome to Room 420. My guest today is Megan Elisabeth Kelly. I am so excited for her to be here. So excited. I am here at night recording this, dude. I'm way past my bedtime.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for bringing me on.
Dude, thanks for coming. You're looking profesh, looking good.
Thanks. You know it's my 8 to 5, my professional gig.
You're like, I'm an 8 to 5. We go harder than 9 to 5.
I know. Well, that's the thing. They always call it like 9 to 5, but so I was really like shocked when they were like, we want you to come in at 8 a.m. on my first day. I was like, no, I thought this was a 9 to 5. But I guess
you enter the workforce, you're like, no, it's hard 5.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Hard 5, no, it's not like that.
Yeah. What was I think the biggest surprise you think when you started working?
I think how boring it is sometimes. Like, quite honestly, you always complain about college and how it's boring and you always have like so many things to do. But honestly, it's nice because you can take breaks in between. Whereas like you have a slow day at work and you sit. You sit and you stare at the computer and you pretend to act like you're doing something important or you try to draw out tasks. I shouldn't be saying this, but it's just true. It's accurate.
Like everybody, you know what they're like when you're sitting in a desk at school and you're like, you're not going to be prepared for the real world. And you think about it in like school, you're just sitting all day pretending to be working.
Very prepared.
Like, this is the real world.
This is exactly how it is.
So if you guys are unsure, my friend Megan here, she's an actress, producer, singer as well. I think I talked you into auditioning for American Idol at one point, too.
Yeah, this is true.
Sorry about that.
No, don't be sorry. It was a good experience.
So she's model as well, man. You've kind of done it all, which has been pretty awesome. I've been trying to get her on this podcast for close to a year. I think a year now.
Yeah, I'm
honestly.
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm finally here.
Yeah. So I was like, I think it was, you were doing Intrusion.
Yeah.
It was when, I just started here. You were like freshly married.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool. So a lot has happened within a year.
It has.
Yeah. So there's kind of one thing I want to talk about, man. Like, is there anything you're kind of working on right now?
Yeah. So I have a couple of projects coming out. I don't know how much I can talk about it, but I can talk about one of them. And I'm sure Tyler Hunt, who you also had on your podcast, I'm sure he's told you all about it and you know about it. But for all of the listeners out there, we have a film coming out in October. Don't know the exact date, sorry. But it's called Who Needs You? And it's about a teenager who goes through an unplanned pregnancy. It's kind of like if you had, let's say, Juno meets Silver Linings Playbook. Like it has some of those, real life qualities and, some of the sadness and the hardship that comes with that, but also some redemptive factors in the story. And yeah, I think it's like a story that can really be told right now. I think a lot of people hopefully can relate to it since I'm sure Tyler mentioned that a single mother helped, collaborated with the story. So some of the elements in the story are very true to, her life and how she perceives some things. So I think it's a good story. So look out for that one streaming when it comes out.
Yeah, I was like, we'll have your perspective on the podcast as well, not just his.
Yeah.
So it was interesting talking to him about, his filmmaking experience and his story and getting it into it too. I think likewise, like what's your story? How'd you get into acting?
Yeah, so I started, I did a lot of theater as one does when you're a child. And I think as soon as I started like watching movies, like Barbie movies.
Oh, yeah.
When I was like 4, I was like, I want to do that. And so I thought for the longest time I was just going to do like voiceover. And then I was like, no, I want to do film. And I guess it's just, you have dreams when you're a kid. Sometimes you grow out of them and then some just stick with you. And this is one that stuck with me. So I'm grateful that I'm still pursuing it. So I pursued it, honestly. I wanted to do it my whole life. It wasn't until I was 12, I was like, okay, I actually want to get an agent and like be serious about this, which I didn't get really serious about it until I was like 17. I didn't know what I was doing, but you don't have any parents in the industry, and sometimes people don't tell you like how hard it is to navigate. Yeah. I mean, there's so many, like, there's a lot of gatekeeping. There's a lot of things that you kind of have to unravel yourself. And so, yeah, I found out more about the industry, I would say, when I was like 17. I felt like I was actually starting to get traction and knowing what I was doing. But yeah,
I feel like you've had such an interesting career, and I'm sure you've had plenty of people like ask you about certain things and talk to you. But like one I want to talk to you about is doing motion capture.
Yeah.
For Life is Strange. Could you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. That was probably one of my favorite projects just because, for one, the team was amazing. Everybody who worked on that game was just phenomenal. Very talented, very warm, very welcoming. And when I started on that game, I think I was 16. And again, it was just motion capture. So what we did was we were completing all of the body movement after the voiceover and sometimes before the voiceover was captured. So it was like really interesting, still memorizing the lines, still going through like the motions of that and understanding who's actually voicing these characters and trying to understand how they are going to bring life to these characters and kind of match their, voice with body movement, which is very interesting, which feels, honestly, it's like a backwards task in your brain. You're like, okay, wait, I'm not saying these lines, so how do I I don't know, convey that message with just my body? But I think it was really good for me. I think it really opened a new a new skill set in my brain that I didn't know was possible. You have to be so aware of your surroundings, whereas on an actual set, everything that's around you. You can touch it, you can see it, it's very real. Whereas on the motion capture set, it's all in your brain. It's all in your mind. So we had these obscure props that were just placed, and I think there were a couple times we just had a rod or something, and we're like, that's the ceiling, don't go through it. And so in one of the games, it's actually the last episode, and Max, I did motion capture for Max, and it was a lot of scenes in the attic for any of you who know the Life is Strange games out there. And I kept going into the wall. I kept running into things. So I had to keep, resetting and really just configuring my space so I would understand this is a wall, this is an object, interact with it, act like it's there and it's
so
real.
They didn't have anything for the wall, but they're like, oh, you just walked through it?
They had, I said, they had a little, I can't remember now. I think it was it was a rod, but I had to remember, they didn't have it throughout. So I was like, okay, this is as tall as I can get, and this is the ceiling.
Yes. So I was in my head, I'm visualizing just one rod, but they're not descriptive at all with it. You could be walking into a cellar.
They did, yeah. They helped me. We walked through it. I knew what I was doing, but it definitely was a challenge for my brain because I had to remember, oh, there's a wall there. I can't just do that, or we definitely had some laughs because, it's a bit of a learning curve.
Oh, I bet. It almost feels like reverse imagination.
Yeah.
That's an interesting process. Have you done stuff like that since? Or?
Yeah, so I actually a couple years later, I can actually talk about this now. I was on a podcast, I think a year or two ago, and I couldn't talk about it. But they actually did a remastered Life is Strange collection where they actually had better syncing with the lips and the voice. And so I was brought on, again, not with body or voice, but with face. So I was Max again. And so I just, we had the voiceover and everything, and I had to come up with the facial expressions for lack of a better description. But that's what I had to do. So that was, again, a really fun task. You became very much aware of, these little mannerisms you have in your face. It got me really aware of my facial acting and especially when you're, going into such a beloved character where people have expectations on how she acts and how she is. So I had to try and bring life to the face to match this beloved character. It's kind of terrifying.
Was it tough to kind of dig it back out and you're like, I haven't played this for a bit, or?
Dig it? Yeah. I don't think so. I think Max, for me, maybe it was just because the character, I kind of relate to her in a lot of ways. She's kind of, I don't know if that's accurate, but I think in some ways she's very she can be very quiet and soft-spoken, but she can be also very strong. And so I think some of her mannerisms and how she holds herself were very it was close to who I am, I think. So it was easy for me to dive into.
Just kind of figuring it out. That's
cool.
That's very cool. Dude, I feel like it's interesting is you have such a huge fan base for that game too.
Oh, I don't know about huge, but
I think some at least gamers are oh, she was in Max and Life is Strange. You know what I mean? it's such an endearing game for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah.
It is very cool to have that. I think it's fun. That was like my first thing where people actually wanted to kind of talk to me. Like I would get DMs or like, oh my gosh, you did this.
Yeah.
Like, can we talk about that? And I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, you think what I did was cool? That's amazing.
It's like video game characters resonate so much with people.
Yeah, and this story, like to be a part of this story, Life is Strange. It's just a really good series. It's a good game.
Have you been able to? Excuse me, I don't know if I'm violating an NDA. Have you been able to work on any more with them at all, or?
No, I haven't actually. Part of what happened was I joined the union. And so a lot of their work is non-union. So I had to, I don't know, it's really hard. That's something, like if you go into like SAG rules and whatnot, it gets kind of weird. And so, I haven't been able to pursue any, but if they ever have a union job, I'll do it.
I was going to say, what is a union for people who don't know?
I know, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So SAG-AFTRA, oh man, I'm gonna really like mess up this description of what this union is.
I feel like every actor has, unless they're on the board.
Yeah, right. I'm like, basically, you do 3, like, how would you even describe a union job? Like a TV show, feature film.
Like new media.
Yeah, like big budget, like anything like that. You do 3 of those and you have to join the union. So I got 3, and so I had to join. And so you pay your dues, and basically you're committed to only doing union work, which is hard because there's so much great non-union work out there. So it's like, I mean, you can in other states. Let me clarify. Yeah. Colorado is not a right-to-work state with the union, I believe. Yeah. So I think your union or your FICOR, which FICOR you can do union and non-union, but FICOR has its own sort of, I don't know, assumptions and judgments. It's a whole nother can of worms, crazy. For sure. Oh my gosh, it's an interesting industry.
Oh yeah, I feel like because you joined the union, and then there was like, because that's not the only union in film.
Yeah.
Like there's the crew has their own union, the director has theirs, and then the writer has their union. And it's kind of this fight for the big piece of the pie, so to speak. I
know, it's crazy.
Like you do your job on set.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you I guess with the SAG stuff, have you found it difficult to work, or has it been kind of like the same?
Yeah, I think it's definitely slower. Like there's not as much union work. I also think naturally it can be just more competitive, like because a lot of these, obviously the bigger budget projects are not just looking in like a local area, they'll look like nationwide. Look at people with more credits than you first, better social media following, like all of these like credentials that, honestly, you just don't meet sometimes, and they're always looking for like a certain look, a certain vibe, there's a number of things that go into casting, and I could go on about that, but I think it's definitely been a slower season since I've joined. Like I've been blessed to get, like nice union jobs since I've joined, but they're not as frequent as it was when I was non-union, and I could do more projects and have more, I don't know, more of a say in kind of the things I pursued. So
it feels like it, I guess like my ignorance is like, it feels like it protects you a little bit more too, if there's like a national brand, which happens, a lot of times, like not saying what brands, but they'll come here and, pay $300 for something in perpetuity.
And that's very true. The union does a great job at protecting actors and performers. They'll fight for you to make sure that you're getting, great pay, great benefits. So there's a number of reasons why the union is wonderful. It's just, it's hard to do both, but I agree. Like non-union work, you'll get some stuff where, they'll want to have your image forever, and you won't be able to pursue any other, fast food of that kind, or, it'll just like limit your resume, commercially speaking.
Which is where a lot of us pay bills.
Exactly. Commercials pay our bills. So, you get you see a commercial where it's like, we want to use this forever, and it's a national brand, and we're going to pay you $100. Yeah. Deferred.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah, no, I think that's kind of the crazy thing.
Yeah.
Which, like any other job, I think for the most part, you're like, what?
Yeah, but with
That's
film,
insane. But film, people are like, oh, I'm gonna be in a commercial.
I know, and I think that is something really hard about being a creative. I think it takes a lot of time for people to respect your work and what you do and value you and pay you what you're worth. And I think that's really sad because, you know, everybody looks to art and film and all these things to, you know, enjoy their day. It's a way for them to like relax, something to appreciate. But yeah, I think it's sometimes really hard for people to get appreciated for the art they produce.
Yeah. I feel like there's like that when you figure out the melding point of like art and commerce. You know, the artist escapes me, and like somebody's gonna comment below, like, how did you not know this? But did like Facebook's mural, you know, and they're just like starting out, and they're like, we can pay or give you like stock options too, and he's like, I think your business is stupid, but I'll take the stock options. Dude,
Oh
like,
my God.
Like millions, you know what I mean?
Wow.
But like, there's some stuff like that. I mean, like,
Yeah.
who knows, like, where you get your opportunities from?
You know, you never know. And that's why it's hard to say no.
Yeah,
And you know, sometimes on the other hand, you know, someone's really creative and they just need help doing a project, and they may not have the budget, but you love the story and the heart behind it. I think that's different. It's like, you know, if you're committed to the project and it's like a passion thing and everyone's on board with it, that's totally different.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think, you know, you really just have to be, I don't know, selective about what you pursue and make sure that it fulfills you at the end of the day.
Is there like certain projects you're like, man, this is just something I want to do? Or is there like a character you're like, I need to play that character? Is there something like that out there for you?
Yeah, I have to say, I'm going to be promoting the film again. But yeah, Who Needs You? Like, that was just an amazing experience. I think I really resonated with Sarah, my character. And I think just having the liberty to have a lead role in a project like that was just surreal. Like, it was so fun. And I think any story like that, I think the only reason I ever even wanted to pursue acting is to just, you know, make an impact, change someone's perspective. I think something that always drew me to the movie theater or just watching a film is just watching a story, and maybe it changes the way you perceive something. Maybe it changes the way you feel about a certain idea or topic, or maybe it just gives you more empathy for like certain situations, you know, and it's like something that you can all connect with. You know, you talk with people in a room and you can easily just talk about a movie. Oh, have you seen that? And then you have an instant way of connecting with somebody. Like, I think the arts are really cool with that. Yeah.
I think what was fun about Intrusion, for instance, was like watching it with my mom.
Yeah.
And sorry to spoil it for you guys, but we're going, get out of there, get out of there.
Yeah.
Get out of there, escape from him, you know, just rooting so hard for you. That was just such a fun experience, I think. So I'm looking forward to seeing all that other stuff.
Yeah, me too. And that's honestly another project I was really grateful for. Like the director of that, Adam and Frida and Logan, everybody on that project was just phenomenal to work with. Everyone was really kind. Yeah, it was definitely like that was one of my favorite experiences as well. I think these last couple years I've been really happy and lucky to be a part of some of these projects.
Well, they're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Dude, I think what's so fun about you too is I think personally I feel like you got a big old funny bone too, and I think you kind of got a rubber face, which I don't think you get to show very often.
No, I do. Yes, that's very true. Only a select few know about the capabilities of my face.
So I'm hoping there's like at least somebody out there who's like, we're gonna give her a comedy role.
You know, that's what my mom always says. Yeah. She's like, why don't you do comedy? I'm like, Mom, I'm too dry for comedy. But unless I'm making like a silly face, like, you know, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know what kind of character I would be. I get a lot of comparisons to like Aubrey Plaza. So I think I could be like a really dry character and have some like quirkiness. Yeah. But yeah, I haven't had any comedic roles.
You're a goofball,
really.
Dude. You're a goofball.
I know. I'm like, let's do that.
It was cool. But like, let's talk about your upbringing for a little bit too. Your parents are from different countries coming here, and then were they surprised with like you getting into acting or anything? Or they're like,
I think it's something my mom actually always wanted to pursue, and I think my dad always loved movies. So I don't know if it was just like a natural like progression. Like I saw my parents enjoyed watching it and enjoying it that way, but Yeah, I don't think they were really surprised. I'm very lucky to say they've always been supportive throughout the entire journey. Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, my mom's from England and my dad's from Ireland. So they moved here in the 90s. Yes, in the 90s. And yeah, they had my sister and I in Washington State. We grew up there. I think my mom tried to get me, well, she encouraged me to always pursue like things I wanted to do. Like I wanted to play the fiddle and the violin. She always helped me get there, and so did my dad. They always supported me, and I know I'm really lucky to say that. So I think it's been nice. I think that's honestly a huge part of the reason I'm still pursuing it today is because I have the foundation of people who just support me. And Ben, of course, supports me. My husband, he's the best person ever. I love you, Ben. He's probably gonna listen to this and laugh. But he's great, and him being also in that world, you know, being a DP and being interested in all of that, I think it really helps with that understanding. You know, I feel like we're on the same pace, want to do the same things, and I think it's great.
Two artists, love it.
Yeah,
you guys have
starving
been
artists.
Married? Is it 1 year and a half? I was gonna say 2 years this next year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a year and September. Yeah, 2 months.
What has been like being married for you?
It's been so great. Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, you marry someone who's like your best friend, and it's just, it feels weirdly easy because also we were together for like 7 years before that. And so I feel like we grew up together in a lot of ways. So there were no like surprises. I'm like, we know each other really well. And of course there's hardships, like you go through things. But I think, you know, just having like a sound partner who can really ground you when you need it and support you when you need it, it's like, it's the best. I'm sure you feel like that too, right?
Yeah. I just want to get your perspective. I felt bad. So I left my wedding ring at home because I was doing the dishes. I took it off, dude. And then I got to work. I texted her. I was like, oh, I'm a dumbass. I forgot my ring. Dude.
I've done that before too. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, she goes, did you get hit on? I was going, no, I didn't get hit on.
No.
Dude. No.
That's so funny. I don't know if I ever told you this, but Churro, we have a tabby cat named Churro. And he's my favorite thing ever. But he knocked Ben's wedding band off the nightstand, and we found it 2 days ago, and it's been missing for a year, but it was like tucked under the bed somewhere, and I'm surprised we found it, but yeah, so I had to get him like a rubber one from Amazon.
So this is for cat owners out there.
Be careful.
Yeah. You've owned cats your whole life?
Yes. Yeah. Crazy cat lady.
Yeah. What kind of cats have you had?
Just fat tabbies all around. Yeah.
Is it? I guess I'm curious. I've never been a cat guy. Only, and like biggest reason, allergic to it.
Yeah.
So, is there like a certain cat where like if you're cat culture, I guess you're like, all right, this is the only cat I'm getting.
Yeah, kinda. I don't know. I appreciate them more for like, you know, their personality. And by the way, I know I said tabby. That's like the color, like the markings. They're actually the cats I've always had are like short hair, medium domestic short hair, whatever it's called. So they all look pretty much the same. Churro is like a marbled tabby. My other cat before that was Hook, and he was also a marbled tabby. So I think I have a brand. Yeah. But also, I think they're spunky personalities. Like, cats are just so funny. Yeah. So I don't know if it's like a specific type of cat. It's more so just their personality, because I think they're just, in some ways, so human. Like, they're so independent. And since they look at you, like, you're on the same level. Yeah. They don't suck up to you. You have to like earn their love and their trust. And I think it's really like, I don't know, it's funny. It's relatable, I guess.
I feel like that's your next like motion capture / voiceover role is like playing a cat.
I would do it 100%.
I feel like you'd crush it. You'd be like, well, was a dude who did Smog.
Oh my god. You know,
Benedict Cumberbatch, and he's like on the ground.
Yes. Yeah. That is actually such great acting. Yeah. Have you seen those clips?
Yes.
Wow.
I should, if I can include it in this podcast, but like he's literally in a mocap suit, just everything, and he's just going through everything.
Insane. Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, we're like, I think a normal person would have been like, Roar or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it takes so much commitment. It's like, you know, any sort of like, I mean, it's not improv, but you get the idea. It's like you have to be fully committed and you have to fully believe what you're doing. That's the only way to make it look good.
Well, I know the people next to me think I'm weird as shit. And I know the people in my office think I'm weird as shit for all the stuff I do during the day.
That's great.
You know, the first time I got hired and I was doing like vocal exercises, they're like, what the hell are you doing?
Yes.
I'm like, I'm going to be on camera. I'm like,
I have to prepare.
Yeah. And now I'm like, I don't think I'm all right.
No.
Just doing a podcast.
Yeah, just doing your thing.
You know, just easy peasy. So, because we are a cannabis podcast, I do like to talk about cannabis for a bit. Have you ever smoked weed?
I have.
You have? What was your experience?
My mom doesn't know this.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Don't listen, Mom.
Don't listen, Mom. Honestly, I didn't get a buzz from it. It was really weird. I haven't like smoked a lot though, so maybe that was part of it. But yeah, the couple times I had tried it, I was like, Saint, I don't know what's happening, but nothing's happening. So I might have just not had the right thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or somebody lied to you and gave you oregano or something.
Honestly,
like that.
I'm dumb enough to be like, sure, yeah, I like smoked weed, and it was like oregano. That would be me.
So you growing up in Washington State, now living here, the first two states to legalize.
Yes. See? The best.
I think it was you.
It was me.
Probably had to do with you.
Yeah, it did. I definitely was part of that.
So I think like we've talked to like every guest about it, and some have been like, no, I hate it. You know. Really? Yeah. Some have been like, I had a terrible experience. You know, I hated it. I think it varies, and that's why I'm just curious about talking to people about it. You know, I think this is something else I've been able to talk to actors about too. Have you ever had to play anybody who's like used drugs or been high or anything like that?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so you did CIT. We had Hannah on the podcast too.
Oh my gosh.
That was interesting talking about. So the CIT, if you want to explain that for our listeners who didn't listen to Hannah's episode.
All right, guys. Yeah. So crisis intervention training. This is what a lot of local actors do when they just need some more work. And honestly, it's great. It stressed me out for the longest time. Like it's a stressful job, but basically your job is to portray various situations of mental and physical crises, and you have to basically convey that to police officers and train them and help them understand how to navigate those situations, how to respond, how to, you know, approach someone who's in crisis and in distress, which is extremely important. I'm glad that, you know, CIT training exists. I think it's imperative to police officer training. Yeah, it's a wild ride. I mean, you get a lot of different scenarios.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. I mean, I think last time we talked, she was like, okay, you know, how do you play like bipolar versus how do you play stoned versus like, so say you're like, I've never done drugs.
Exactly.
And they're like, all right, you need to be playing a meth addict.
Oh my
How do you approach that?
A lot of Googling and like research. And it's so easy. Like you don't want to play it on the nose, but you're like, I also haven't done this. So how do I like accurately portray that? So I think a lot of it is just research and knowing what the symptoms are and like really feeling that, you know, like, you know, itchiness or like, you know, jitteriness or like, you know, these energies that we feel on a daily basis, but just channel it and use it as if you're on drugs, even though you've never done that. But I feel like you can't get hung up on the fact you've never done drugs. Yeah. You just have to really believe what you understand about it and go from there, if that makes sense.
There's an element to it. I think of this with I don't know if you remember like Malibu's Most Wanted or if you've ever seen that, right? So like he's like, I'm playing a street thug, and he's like, he's a trained actor, and he's like, break yourself, fool. And it's just so dumb.
Yeah.
I think it's Ty Diggs, and he just can't get it right. You know what I mean? So, like, that stuff's so interesting with, like, you know, there is elements where I think it's easier, for instance, to go back to play a dragon versus a drug addict.
Well, exactly, because guess what? Easier. Nobody knows what a dragon is. No. It could be anything. Yeah. Like, you have these perceptions, you have these cartoons, you have these things that you can look at. Nobody has seen a dragon. Yeah. Oh, well, if you have, that's another conversation.
Like, it's interesting because, like, we kind of always talk about this is like with cannabis, for instance. It's like, you know, you see it so much in the movies. Like, my first perception was in the movies. So, like, that's where I was like, oh, that's what it's like. Like, you're like, whoa, dude, I'm stoned. And even people who kind of use it, like Cheech and Chong, like you heighten it for a comedic effect.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But it's like, I think it's definitely different. Like even watching drunk people.
Yes.
Like,
and everybody has a different, like vibe to each of those things. Like, your version of, being drunk is different than someone else's. Yeah. Like, so I think it's really just, and it's hard because if you don't have experience, you just try to tap into like how you are, when you are those things. I think subtlety is so key for those. Yeah. At least in my situation, because I think just from my understanding and my experience, I'm like, that's exactly how I am. Yeah. I try to be more low key and try to like
hide
fly under the radar.
Bit.
Yes.
Yeah. Which I think is so funny. It's like, I'm kind of the same way where like I try to be so hidden that I become like the loudest or like most visible person in the room.
I've had a conversation with my friend who we both are convinced we get louder with White Claws and we don't know why. Specifically just White Claws.
You could just drink them forever.
Yeah, but I feel like my volume just goes through the roof and I don't know. I don't know where that comes from.
Dude, so here's a tough question for you. Top 5 alcohols of all time.
Oh, like do I have to pick like brands or can I just
pick whatever?
Okay, okay.
Take that however you wish.
That's really hard. It depends
I told you it was gonna be hard.
It depends on how I want to feel the next day.
Yeah.
Because if I want to feel fine, it's always gonna be vodka. Like that's gonna be the best. But I hate the taste of vodka. If it was for something I like, I love wine, and I love whiskey. Both hate me. I do not feel well when I have either of those. I have to drink in moderation with those. But they are the best. So it's definitely not 5, but let me think. Okay, so I also like beer. White Claw seltzers are just easy.
Dude, they're just so good. I feel like my dad was like, they're the Zimas of like the 20s.
Yes.
I was like, oh, that does that.
It's
I hate
right.
that you said that, but you're right.
I hate that it's right.
Or like wine coolers and stuff like that.
Yeah. What's last on my list is gin. In case you were wondering.
Oh God, I hate gin so much.
I don't like gin at all.
Do your parents like gin at all?
No.
So
as far as I know.
This is the only reason I had to ask. This is stereotyping. Every person I've met who's British is like gin.
Yeah, I know. Maybe my mom does.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I know my cousins like gin. Yeah, you're right.
And they keep trying to tell me like, oh, you haven't had good gin.
No.
And like I don't know, dude. I'm like, I just don't like the taste.
I don't like the taste either.
I've had some. I forget what it is it Tanqueray? Maybe whatever it was like tasted like pine.
Yeah.
But I think if you guys get a chance out there, and I know we're a cannabis podcast, but like try Malorts. Just try Malorts.
Yes. All right.
It's the worst thing you'll ever drink.
All right. I feel like you have to try it once though, right?
So like everybody, the best description I've ever heard of it was like, it's like a permanent marker and a sweaty sock mixed in a drink.
Sweaty sock.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that is accurate. I've been struggling to tell the taste of people, but.
That's right.
Yeah. Like that's the.
Is it weird that I kind of want to try to confirm it?
You got to do it. That's where
once.
I was like.
Yeah, whenever you have like a specific description of a drink, like even if you're like, this is the worst thing in the world, even if it's the best thing in the world, I just want to try it. Like if you give me a description, I'm like, I want to see if I match that or if I have a different idea.
Yep. So I feel like in some ways, like back to weed, but it's like weed, there was like, I was like, what is it going to taste? There was nobody who could tell me anything.
No.
Nothing. You know what I mean? Like and even like, oh, you're like, there's some people who are like, they have their strains.
Yeah.
They have they're like, this is what I like. Me, I'm more like, this is how I like to consume because that's where I affect more.
Yes.
Like edibles kill me. I am like, like with your like, oh, whiskey or this, we got to do them before. The next day is going to suck. I'm like, if I take an edible, I'm going to be it's going to feel like a bath of just high.
I had an edible.
Yeah, right? You're like, oh my God.
It was literally the scariest thing I've ever
done. It's terrifying because you're like, dude, I was not prepared for how high I was going to be.
Well, and that was the thing. Like, I smoked weed and I was like, this isn't doing it. I don't know what's happening. And then, edible just hit different. That was different for sure.
It took me a while, like even just living here in Colorado, to be like, I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
And I had like edibles before where people would make them.
Yeah.
And no idea. And this is part of like the education. It's like, oh, I'll eat the whole cookie.
Yes.
You know what I
And
mean?
you're like, I should not have done that.
And the worst part is you're like, oh, I don't feel it. Should I have another? And they're like, yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
You don't feel it, and then
Yep.
you wait, and like the hour hits, and it's like everything's like,
Yeah.
and
all
you're
at
just
once.
like, oh
all
no,
at once.
what has happened?
Yep.
Yeah, I remember laughing really hard for like the first hour, best hour of my life,
Mhm.
and then after that, I was like, I'm dying. I'm having a heart attack.
Yeah.
Classic. I was gonna call 911 on myself.
Right?
Yeah.
you're like,
I was
I'm
like,
too-
this is not good.
or it's like that description I can only say is like violently high.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But I think the crazy thing is like I've always been like, and it's fine.
Yeah.
It was like all in my head.
exactly.
You know, it's like I think once realizing that I was like, oh, this is
Isn't
like,
that crazy?
Yeah.
And that's why like there's such a negative. Unfortunately, there's still such a negative connotation with weed, but it's just not fair. Like it's not accurate. Cause I'm like, honestly, like
Yeah.
as high as I was not in any danger. Whereas with alcohol, it's a different story. But
I've
that's
been-
more
yeah.
normalized.
And I was like curious if you've had like, I don't mean to interrupt, but I was just like, you
Yeah.
know, you had those moments where you're like really drunk
yes.
and you're like, dude, I'm actually might die.
Yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
saying that, I've never been blackout.
Yeah.
I've been really drunk though, you know, a classic like throw up, I'm not well, you know, a whole thing. But yes, I definitely feel like I was not on the same level as weed
Yeah.
at all. I was like, oh my gosh, this is not comparable because
Yeah.
you feel so much sicker with alcohol.
Which I think is so weird. It's like how we classify drugs, and that's just the talk is like, you know, when you're like, all right, cocaine, heroin, marijuana
Yeah,
as like Schedule 1. I'm like, I don't know.
I don't agree.
Like one, I
Yeah.
am too scared to ever try. You know,
Exactly.
like one, I'm like the other. I'm like, we'll talk about it maybe. No, I'm good.
Yes.
You know, but I still don't want to do it. But the other, I'm like, yeah, I'll try that.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree. 100%.
We're like, what's this gonna make me do? Like Pineapple Express? I already like Pineapple
All
Express.
right,
That works
I'm
for me.
in.
Which is how I kind of want to segue into ending our podcast. So we kind of usually we'll talk about like either your favorite movies to watch down, or your smoke circle. So like we'll go with like your top 5 people to smoke with, or your top 5 stoner comedies, like or stoner movies. I'll let you pick between the two.
All right, let me think. Whew, that's hard.
I know I'm
I'll
just
pick-
giving tough questions right now.
I
dude.
know. I think for me, movie-wise, anything that's like, I'm gonna get judged for this. Anything that's like big brain time. I'm just kidding. But like for real, like Christopher Nolan, like the whole time is relative thing. Like, oh yeah, like I could see myself honestly watching all those. Like Interstellar is one of my all-time favorite movies. I know these aren't comedies, but
No, it doesn't have to be comedy. I just was like, I just said that, so it's like your top 5 movies. You're like,
Yeah.
all right.
this is what I would
gonna
watch.
relax, watch some
Yes.
smoke a bowl.
Yeah, I love anything like that. I'm a big thinker. You know, everybody says that, but like I
You
love
are.
I love movies like
Yeah.
that. You know, just make you think. Interstellar, Inception. I also really love Shawshank Redemption. It's such a good movie. Oh my gosh, I have so many favorite ones. I'm trying to think. 2 more. That's 3, right?
Who needs you?
Oh yeah, Who Needs You? That's one of my favorite movies. It's like such a, oh my gosh, self plug. No, I think. I know I have 2 more. I like so many movies. La La Land, love that movie too. It's a classic.
It's so colorful too.
I know, it's so pretty.
Yes.
It's very well shot, like and
Yes.
colored. Ben loves that too.
Mm.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Dead Poet Society. Anything Robin Williams.
Yeah.
What's the other one? Good Will Hunting. Yeah, I just
Man.
love the
You just
feeler
go on.
movies.
I love that. I feel like, I mean, I had my first LSD experience. I watched Gladiator.
Was it
It was
great?
so beautiful. When they started fighting too, the waves of the sword blast were like coming at me.
Everything's so powerful.
And I saw
yeah.
the choreography, like everything. I was like, this is so beautiful.
Yes,
just was
like you
like-
appreciate it
yes.
so differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool.
And it was like everything was like kind of tinted, the
Yeah.
color. So I was like, oh. Yeah. So I'm always like, if you enjoy movies and stuff like that, you know,
Yeah.
I've talked about like my video guy. He like watched The Joker, you know,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he like left the theater and he's like, oh, like he was just too enthralled in it. He like felt like it was real.
Yeah.
You know, like he was just like, and got out at 2 a.m. and he's like, holy shit, dude.
What just happened? Yeah.
Which is nice, like intentional watching like that. You're like, I'm just going to block out everything else and just enjoy this screen.
That's the best thing ever.
You know what I mean? So, which is going to be awesome when you guys see Megan Elisabeth Kelly on the screen in Who Needs You, which was just out in Los Angeles.
Yes.
You guys just, it wasn't a premiere, but it was another film festival, correct?
Yeah, so we were showing at CineQuest a couple weekends ago. And yeah, so we had our next showing there because we had our, honestly, we actually had our first premiere at CineQuest, but it was a virtual premiere in April. And then we had second film festival with Malibu. Yeah, that was, so those are our two like big festivals we got into, so we're very grateful for that. And yeah, it'll be out in October. Again, don't know the date. It'll be later in October, but look out for Who Needs You. I believe it will be on Prime.
Dope.
Yeah.
Dope. I'm really looking forward to that. And then other stuff that obviously you signed an NDA for, so we can't talk about that. But hey, what I love about it is you're old school, like kind of old school Hollywood right now. We're like, don't follow her on the social medias. You just have to check out her IMDb, see what's coming out.
Yeah, just see what's coming out.
You know what I mean? If you want to see her, you gotta check out her movies.
Yes,
you know,
it's just true.
You know, so that's the way it works, dude. Hey, appreciate you for coming on Room 420.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I hope to have you again.
I will come anytime.
So would love to have you again. I appreciate your time so much. Say hi to Ben. Say hi to your cat Churro for us.
I will.
Thanks, guys, for listening. Be sure to follow us at Veriheal to stay up to date with the latest in cannabis news. This has been Gary Miller. Thanks for listening to Room 420.
Hey, Brett, this is Granny. I'm calling you because I just listened to your music. Girl, you were kicking it. I enjoyed it, Brett.